Good morning, and welcome to everyone who registered to attend our Middle East Peace Now Forum. I'm Kathy Adam, a member of the board of Middle East Peace Now. We would like to thank our co-sponsors for this event: Jewish Voice for Peace, Twin Cities, Northfielders for Justice in Palestine, Israel, and Women Against Military Madness. We greatly appreciate all of these organizations and others for their support of MEPN monthly forums. Maddie will now share a few housekeeping items about the webinar with you.
Hello, as many of you may be familiar with, I have a couple administrative notes to share before we begin. So all participants will be muted for the duration of the event. Please submit your questions using the Q&A feature of Zoom, and we will put them in the queue. Please use the chat feature for any administrative or help questions, and we will do our best to assist you. Again, please be respectful in the chat and Q&A. We do reserve the right to remove anyone who is causing harm. And if Zoom is not working for you, please email mepn@mepn.org, and we will do our best to help. So this event is being recorded and will be available on MEPN's YouTube channel in the coming week. And that will also, the link to that will also be emailed in our forum follow-up email, and it will also be posted on the MEPN website. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Maddie. And thank you, Dr. Awad, for joining us this morning. And thank you, everyone, for attending. There's a reminder to complete a very short evaluation in the link, which may be found in the sidebar at the conclusion of the forum today. Today's forum will be posted on our website along with a link to register for next month's forum, which will be April 16th and feature British Israeli author and social activist Ilan Papp. He is a professor with the College of Social Sciences and International Studies at the University of Exeter in the United Kingdom, director of the university's European Center for Palestinian Studies, and co-director of the Exeter Center for Ethno-Political Studies. He is the author of The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine, The Modern Middle East, A History of Modern Palestine, One Land, Two Peoples, and Britain and the Arab-Israeli Conflict. He was also a leading member of Hadash and was a candidate on the party list in 2 Knesset elections. His work has been both supported and criticized by other historians. Before he left in 2008, he had been condemned in the Knesset. A minister of education had called him to be sacked. His photograph appeared in a newspaper at the center of a target, and he received several death threats. Ilan's forum topic will be posted soon. Please join us for this April forum. For now, as we continue with the uncertainty of COVID, our April forum will be presented via Zoom. If you are new to MEPN forums and like what you see in here, please consider becoming a member through donation and/or yearly dues. A link has been posted in the chat for you to give this way via Give Minnesota, or you may directly give by sending your check to MEPN. On behalf of the board, we thank you for your support and interest in MEPN forums. And now it is my privilege to introduce Dr. Awad. Dr. Mubarak Awad is a Palestinian educator, author, and psychologist. He has founded many programs, centers, and NGOs with the common theme of the power of nonviolent approaches to affect social change, justice, and peace, both in Palestine, Israel, and in the international community. He was born in East Jerusalem in 1943. At age 5, he tragically lost his father in the Nakba of 1948. Mubarak's mother, a pacifist, argued against revenge for the loss. In addition to being influenced by his mother, he was influenced by Mennonite and Quaker missionaries as a young man. He studied in the US, where he earned a BA in social work and sociology from Mennonite Bluffton University, an MS in education from St. Francis University, and a PhD in psychology from the International Graduate School of St. Louis University. He then returned to Jerusalem in 1983, where he established the Palestinian Study Center for the Study of Nonviolence. Because of his advocacy for nonviolent resistance to the occupation during the first Palestinian Intifada, he was deported by the Israeli Supreme Court in 1988 after being jailed for organizing activities involving nonviolent civil disobedience. Dr. Awad has since formed Nonviolence International in Washington, D.C., which works with various movements and organizations across the globe. He is viewed by many as the Palestinian Mahatma Gandhi. Today, Mubarak teaches in the School of International Services at the American University in Washington, D.C. A father and grandfather, he lives with his wife in Maryland, where he continues to teach, speak, and write. I've been privileged to hear him speak on a number of occasions, most recently as a lecturer of the Bethlehem Bible College in their Peace and Justice Studies program. I'm excited to have him share with our MEPN audience this morning. Welcome, Dr. Awad.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody here, and I am so happy to be part of presenting the Palestinian point of view of nonviolence, as well as the way as Palestinian we see each other and we see the world around us. It's the power of nonviolence in attaining peace. I believe in it for so long, and it have been taking me as a light to live my life as a nonviolent person, even in the worst and the most difficult situations that I can see that it's easier to do violence rather than being stubborn and being in nonviolence and advocacy for nonviolence. My childhood and my mother have been, and my brothers and sisters have been the most influence on me. After the death of my father at 5 years old, I have no clue and was upset and angry why my father had to be shot or being taken away. And also I felt that if that is a case of taking my father away, then also my mother will be taken away. So I was all the time traumatized and thinking when my mother will be taken away from me and from us as children. And so my mother couldn't afford to have us live with her because our house had been taken away from us. And even we were spread on the wall, the 7 of us and my mother and my grandmother. And if we didn't leave our house, we'll be all shot. So by the grace of God, somehow have a feeling that we'll leave the house. And we left the house only with our clothes, and we became refugees in the old city of Jerusalem. And we lived in the streets. We have no food, And then we became a burden on society, which is a very sad situation when you have a feeling that everything is all right and suddenly within 24 hours, everything is bad. And we became a burden on this society that help us. My sisters, they went to an orphanages, and my brother Bishara and myself, we went to Dar al-Awlad. It's an orphanage for boys. And that's where the thing started. And I have been like 14 years, 15 years in that orphanage. And it's so sad that I was always hungry and angry. And that gave me a concept of, if I live longer, I have to advocate for kids, that no kids could have the same treatment as I have. And they have to believe that their life today is better than their life tomorrow, and the future for them have to be better. And I was very successful in that. So in my studies, I came to United States to study. And I studied social work, studied sociology, and was so much influenced by the Mennonites way and the Quakers way that they don't send their children to war, and they are against war. And I love that because my mother insisted that I should not carry a gun, should not revenge the death of my father, and should always, always forgive even those who did me wrong. And I have difficulty in accepting that, but because she's my mother, I have to say, oh, yes, mom, yes, mom, yes, mom. Yet I don't believe it in my heart that this is the right thing to do. And in the orphanage and in school, I was very much of a bully, very, very angry, daily anger I have. And teacher understand it a little bit better than I understood myself in that anger. But I did good in school, I graduated, and I became very active in saying why we as Palestinian, we are under occupation, why we as Palestinian, our land being taken from us, by what power other people have over us and take our culture, destroy everything we have. At school, they didn't teach us that. And then when you come to United States, things are open for you, open a discussion. And when you open a discussion, then you'll start asking why. You have the freedom of speaking and asking and asking. And I was asking all those questions. And then reading and knowing more about Mahatma Gandhi, knowing about Martin Luther King, knowing about all those people before us, that they really work hard with the whole idea of nonviolence. And I said, why we as Palestinians wouldn't take that power and use it? And that was really, it's not that why I have to do it, why Palestinians they should do. And I was in the United States happy and doing everything as a student and enjoying myself while Palestinians continue being under occupation. After my master's degree and after my PhD, I decided I have enough, and I have thinking very clearly that I have to go to Palestine. I have to go to Jerusalem. I have to go to every place, and starting a center. In the beginning, I started a center for the counseling, to start counselor, okay, in the center, to teach them to be counselor in school, to teach the young kid when their father being killed or their mother being killed or their house being taken away by the Israeli military might with the guns facing them, how to deal with those issues. And we as Palestinians, we are all traumatized. We have trauma everywhere. And I think that if I start teaching counselors and putting a center for this, it will help the psychic of the Palestinians. In the United States, I was so much influenced by a psychologist called Carl Rogers. And I met him many times, and I discussed with him, what you mean that we have the power to do it ourselves? That his feeling in his psychology, that you have the power to do it yourself, okay? Don't let anybody take that power from you. It doesn't matter if you are poor or you are under occupation, you still have power. And I thought, oh boy, that's something, I accept that. So not only that, but even before I left, I was so much interested in working with children in the United States. So I work with children who are neglected, that parents, they don't want them, that they are abused, they are deprived of everything. And I start getting those children and starting a program called the Youth Advocate Program to find places for those children. Because I saw myself in every child in the United States when he is hungry or she is hungry, when he is deprived of his mother or his father, when nobody listened to him, or when he is taken away from his regular home and to put him in a foster home. I was feeling with that child. And the program became very much started in Ohio, because I was at Ohio University in Bluffton University in Ohio. And I really became so active, not only an advocate for youth, but also I decided, if I am doing well in the United States and advocating for those children, American children, I want to go back home and do that for Palestinian children. So I went home and I started the center for the Palestinian Center, a counseling center, but I find it different from the way that we deal with United States children, US children, and Palestinian children. Palestinian children and Palestinian people, every family, everyone have somebody affected by the occupation. Everyone was interested in politics, and hardly anybody is interested in counseling. And it was a difficult way in that time to do counseling, but at least I started that. And we put counselors in schools, and we start saying to the people, when your father get out of prison after 5, 10 years, 15 years, he is a different man, and he have to have a different dynamic with his wife and with his kids. He cannot go leaving prison and come after 15 years, and his girl, she was 1 year old and now she is 18 years old. He shout at her and say, bring me coffee. She will tell him, what's the matter with you? Why you are shouting at me, bring me coffee? I'm not bringing you, go and get your own coffee. So there was a conflict within the family. And if you don't resolve that conflict, that become more problems. So I was interested in this idea of prisoners, interested in kids who are going to prison. Till now, I work a lot with Palestinians who are in Israeli prisons and try to get out of that and try to help them and try to do everything possible with the help of others. But then I felt so urged that Palestinian, okay, if you are not interested, what's the interest of the Palestinians? And I find that they are interested in freedom, interested in a way of life like any other human being around the world, that they want to go wherever they want, that they don't need any permission to go from one city to another, that they don't need checkpoints, that they don't need all that harassment. So I said, well, then I want to start a center to bring the idea of nonviolence to the Palestinian. And boy, and you think that it was easy. No, it wasn't easy, because the PLO, which is the Palestinian group that really represent us as Palestinians, they believe in the armed struggle. And here I was a person who say, I should not carry any guns. I don't want the Palestinian guns. And the Palestinian can work hard and do and become freedom through nonviolence. So I brought all the PLO leadership against me. And then I was also saying that we should not accept this occupation. We should not pay taxes to the Israelis. We should not eat or drink any of their products. We should not accept their courts. And we should not really have a connection with the Israeli soldiers that they're occupying us. Or whenever we see a soldier, we have to turn our back and not to tell him that we don't want you here, why you are here, why you are killing us, and being very much opposing those. And boy, then the Israeli came against me too. They became and say, I am the most dangerous person in Israel. And I decided, okay, we have to go to villages, and I have a van, and I put all the work of Martin Luther King and all the work of Gandhi. And I went from one refugee camp to another refugee camp to a village after village after village. And I tell them, see this Gandhi, he's so skinny. He doesn't have a gun in his hand, but he liberated India. We can liberate Palestine like Gandhi did. And that was an amazing. People in some village, they say, you are crazy. Other people say, how we could do it. Other people come and teach us. Others say, well, you know, we are under Israeli control, but the Indians were under British control. So the British are a little bit more human to deal with. And it wasn't that way. Tyrants are tyrants. It doesn't matter where they came from and who they are. Occupiers and colonizers are the same. They are interested in your taking rid of your culture, taking your language away, taking your poetry away, taking your music away, taking your soul away, taking everything away from you. And they want to treat you just as a piece of cloth that they could step on you. But you have the power, and that power comes through nonviolence. So I opened a center, and I went to India and got all the books I can about Gandhi, and I brought them with me. I went to find Muslim person who was believing in nonviolence, who was saying, I believe in nonviolence and I want to help Gandhi to promote nonviolence to Islam. I am a Christian myself, but most of the Palestinians are Muslim. So I went to see or find a fellow, and we find a fellow by the name of Abdul Ghaffar Khan. And he believed that Islam is a nonviolent religion. And I took his book, I translated to Arabic, and I published it all on that. And then we heard of a fellow by the name of Gene Sharp, that he collected a nonviolent action and methods from all over the world. And he have 180 methods plus. And he put them in his books, telling everybody that not only martial or only taking a fasting, that's nonviolence. There are other methods of nonviolence, and how you could get rid of occupation through nonviolence means. And that was, and I translated his books, and he got upset with me because I didn't have a permission from him to translate his books. And I took chapter, but I didn't take the other chapter. So then we became friends. And on that friendship, really, it hit that I decided that not only the Palestinians in Palestine, okay, they need nonviolence training and education. I have to ask people from around the world who are leaders like Gene Sharp to go with me, to take them to Tunis and to talk to Arafat, who is our leader, to talk to all the leadership there and to tell them that it's okay to talk to the Israelis. It's okay to tell them what our needs are. It's okay to tell them we don't want occupation. Rather than the gun, use those methods. And they accepted, they rejected, but we have like a week of training in the highest form of nonviolence to the leadership of the Palestinians. But also I translated a lot of Martin Luther King work. And a lot of people, because Martin Luther King work was so much directed towards Christians. So a lot of people say, why he belonged to the church? And I said, because in the Bible, in the New Testament, peace is important for the Christians. Peace is important for all the world, for everybody, including the Palestinians. And a lot of people rejected Gandhi because Gandhi was opposing of a creation of an Islamic state, which is Pakistan. So in the Islamic countries, they rejected Gandhi because they thought that he is against Islam. So there is a lot of things to deal with and to work with and to that. And even till now in our school, we don't teach Gandhi. We don't teach Martin Luther King. Even we don't have any kind of education of peace and nonviolence in the schools. Yet we have to continue trying to push hard in all the schools, in elementary, in high school, in universities, that they have to teach alternative to violence. And we were successful in some, and we were not. But the Israeli got so upset with us. And I'll give you two stories that affected me so much. A fellow who came to our center in Jerusalem, he's an elderly gentleman, and he said that the Israeli took their land and put a fence around it. And he wants his land back. And you came to our village and you talk how powerful is nonviolence and what is this nonviolence. And I call it la unf or sabr. That means it's like cactus. It's strong, that you have to be strong. He said, I need my land back. Could you help me? You know, I said, how could I really put what he says in an action? And I told him, You could go to your village. You could bring the young people, the women, everybody, bring them to the land, and we will start taking the fence down on a condition that nobody should run away, nobody should throw stones, and nobody should threaten by anything of the Israeli military or Israeli settlers. And we'll put the fence down, and we take the fence out. And he left. And he said, okay, I'll come back whenever I make a decision, if our people will willing to do that. And I was scared to death. I never thought that nonviolence is that scary. And I wished in my heart that he wouldn't come back, that his people would reject the idea of taking the fence down. Because taking the fence down, the Israeli soldiers and the settlers, they might shoot us. And who I am to have people to be killed for a piece of land. So I start questioning myself, questioning even my ability in saying that statement to that person. He came after 3 days. He says, we are willing. So I have to put it in the press, in the English language, in the Arabic language, and in the Hebrew press, that this is what we are doing on this day, on this hour. We are going at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we will take the fence down. And I did it because if they are going to shoot us, at least somebody know that we were shot for a good cause. But the people came and they didn't run away. We took the fence down. The soldiers came. The military governor of Bethlehem area came and he told us to stop, and we didn't stop. At the end, the military governor told the settlers and everybody that they show us the land is theirs, and they deserve this land because they are not willing to leave. And boy, not only I gave a good, healthy breath of joy, but I was so glad that not a single person died with that action. The next day it was in the newspapers, and we stopped doing the lectures of nonviolence. We stopped doing the writings of nonviolence, and we became, in our center, an action group who are doing nonviolence, planting trees, going to houses where the Israelis destroyed and rebuild them, trying to make the people believe that their strength is through nonviolence. And then every time we do an action, I'll get in jail, I get in prison, and on that. And I have so many threats. It doesn't matter how big they are, how small the threats are, we didn't stop. And young Palestinians, they felt strong that they are doing something, okay? We are not hurting the Israelis, but we are protecting ourselves. And I did something else. I went to the prison and I went on a hunger strike. And that changed my life. My attorney, his name is Jonathan Kuttab, who have been working with Al-Haq, an organization for human rights. He came and he told me that there is a professor who is an Israeli professor. His name is Eddie Kaufman. He is fasting under a tree with you, and he wouldn't eat until you stop the fasting. He is a Zionist also. And I said, for God's sake, why an Israeli person, a professor, want to damage his life with the Israelis to fast for me and support me? I really was so upset, and I couldn't get it in my head, okay? And at that time, it was in my head that the Israelis, all of them are against us. The Jews, all of them are against us. And we cannot have a partner with any of the Israelis or Jews to work with us. And here is a professor that the people in the street will throw garbage on him. He have to bring his children, and they are in the Air Force, to stand beside him so that he wouldn't be harmed by other Israelis. And the attorney came and said, you are fat, you have a lot of meat on you. He's skinny. So I stopped my fasting. And that time, I felt after I was released from prison that if we find a fellow like Eddie Kaufman in a Jewish community, I have to go to the Jewish community and to see if there are other people like Eddie. And we find a lot of people. We start working together. And now when we plant trees, we start bringing Israelis together with the Palestinian planting trees and Israeli planting trees in a Palestinian land, where some of the big, huge olive trees are being taken away. So that had been a very, very much of a helpful situation for us, that we have to take ourselves and be more human and to see the others not as a religious group, but as a human with us. So we have common causes, and that's, we change our attitude and our way of dealing with the nonviolence. And that was very amazing. But also we start writing what are the methods, what are the theories, and start spreading it of methods and theories of nonviolence. We were talking about other countries. We were talking about South Africa. We were talking about other places in small areas, in big areas. And we have to put it on an individual basis, very much individual, that a person have to make a choice himself for nonviolence or violence. And for us, it's better to use a nonviolence. And it starts spreading to the point that I became very much a threat to the Israelis. If a lot of Palestinians start using the methods of nonviolence, I was put again in prison, and then I was deported, not only by the Supreme Court, but the Prime Minister of Israel, and they have to deport me. And I have to tell you the story of my deportation, which is very sad, but it's okay. They want me to go on an LL airline. And here I was in chains with security. And I said, I don't want to go on LL, which is the Israeli airline. I'll go on an American airline, on a TWA. They said, you are in chain. Who are you to refuse? I say, I refuse. I wouldn't. They have to wait for 6 hours until the TWA came, and they have 2 people with me on the TWA. They sit us all the way in the back. And after the TWA was in the air, in the international space, airspace, the pilot came and he said, Dr. Awad, we want to bring you to first class. The ambassador of the United States told us that you are okay, you are not a terrorist, and we want you to sit there. And they took everything away from my feet and my hands, And I went, and then I look in front of me, there is the white cloth, and they brought me food, and then tears come. I was one day in prison, the next day I was in first class. But these are the things that make a difference in somebody's life. And individually, we as human beings, we could do a lot of good when we are faithful in what we say, we are faithful in what we do. We have an action to help others. We are advocates for kids. We are advocates for women. We are advocates for people who don't have a lot in life, and to help them and support them and not to ignore them. And that's what humanity and community have to be formed and fulfilled. And then I opened a center after being accepted as a professor at American University. And I opened a center for Nonviolence International. And I said, if I have that knowledge for the Palestinian, I like to spread that knowledge of teaching, of bringing information, of working with a lot of revolutionary groups around the world, and to teach them about nonviolence. And I did that, and it was wonderful, where a lot of people, and we have in so many places, we have success. Other places, they wouldn't listen, which is all right, because nonviolence is an option for people to accept it or reject it. But we throw seeds at least, and it will grow in those areas. And people come after 5 years, could you support us with the nonviolence ways? And I said, you have to do it yourself. Every group, every person have to do it themselves, and you have to have a commitment for that to do it. You cannot change from violence to nonviolence according to circumstances, situation, unlike what we have in Ukraine. I am so much opposing that Ukraine will get a lot of weapons. I am also opposing for the invasion of Ukraine by the Russians. Yet I am here in the United States. I cannot say anything bad about things, except I'm saying that weapons to Ukraine is bringing more death, and we don't want neither Russian nor Ukrainian people to die. We need a lot of people who are churches, peace groups, to go to those areas and say we need peace. Unions, everybody to push hard peace, not to push hard weapons. And that becomes an important for us. It becomes a real situation that we have to deal with any tough situation, knowing that nonviolence would work. But we cannot and will not say while we are here to the Ukrainian, do this or do that. They have to do it themselves on that. But what we can do is to give information, to send information, to tell the Ukrainians to support the people in Russia who are supporting them, and to keep a contact of communication with them. That will be a very helpful situation for them and for everybody. The future thoughts of nonviolence is also an important aspect. We as humans, we are not as been before, fighting and killing for a piece of meat and killing the other people on that. That have been 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago. Why now we are back to do it? We learn in universities, we are educated, we are more civilized. So any conflict can be resolved through dialogue. It can be resolved through communication, through meeting with each other. It doesn't matter what that conflict is. We have to have a debate and understanding each other that I don't agree with you, you don't agree with me, but we don't need to kill each other. Let's have a common cause, a common ground, that neither of us will be killed, neither of you will be killed. And I'm very sad for both the United States, Europe, and the Russians that they didn't use their intelligence and then intellectual. And the people who communicate, who can do peace, to have that step before they go to war. That's my thinking for anybody, any tyrant, any revolutionary in the world that try of those methods of nonviolence before having a gun or a bullet or a tank or a rocket. And now everything is very much involved in Ukraine and Russia on that. This Russia also is affecting the Palestinians. Now we heard recently that more than 100,000 that they might go to Israel, and the Israelis, where they want to put them, they put them in a settlement. They will take more Palestinian land. They take more Palestinian homes. And here the conflict continues. So the conflict between the Russians and the Ukrainian is affecting us again and again. And thus we say that it's not fair. Well, fair doesn't, we hope that this would not happen, but I'm afraid that this might happen. And if Israel will take children of Ukrainian children who lost their parents and take them to Israel, Israel will make them soldiers, that they will kill us. That's again something that nobody think of that, but that's for us as Palestinian, we are getting difficult messages and different messages that we are worth nothing. And that's where when people are upset, they forgot three things. That tolerance is important, forgiveness is important, reconciliation is important, and the word love is important. And as a Christian, I really believe, okay, the command of Jesus Christ who say, love your enemies. He didn't say, go and kill your enemies. He said, love your enemies. And to love my enemies is not to love my friends. The enemies, that they make you harm, that they destroy you, that they kill your father. You have to change your mind and say, you are a good person, you are a good man. I want to love you, I want to hug you. Boy, that's very tough. But Jesus was tough. With his message was very strong. And we have to, as a Christian, I accept that message and I live with it. My mother lived with it, my brother lived with it. And we do everything possible to help the others live with that. And thank you for hearing me. And now I open myself for any questions, please.
Oh, thank you very much. And we have some very good questions from our audience. Let's begin with what nonviolent techniques have been most successful in resisting the occupation of Palestine?
I think the first technique that is most interested in resisting Palestine is taking the fear of the Israelis. Instead of having in a refugee camp 2 or 3 soldiers, to the Israelis sometimes they put hundreds of soldiers. Okay, intimidation and fear. They want the Palestinian in the camp to be afraid of them. And part of my idea there is that we should not be afraid of the Israelis. The Israelis carry the gun, they are afraid of us. So fear is an important thing. The second thing is that we as Palestinians we have to depend on ourselves. We cannot depend on Europeans or the Arab world or anybody. We have to depend on ourselves. And that shows very well when we have the first Intifada, we depended on ourselves. And after that, we got a lot of concession from the Israelis because we talk what we want, not what the Arabs want or European wants. And the third one is that when you are in a nonviolent, and it's not that you do it one day and then finished. A nonviolent action is daily, 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 daily. You don't stop. And we have a consistent of Palestinians using methods of nonviolence on a daily basis. Maybe you don't hear it in the news because everybody is using it, but that becomes an effort from all Palestinians that when you resist, you continue the resistance. And if the PLO and our Palestinians, they abuse power, we have to stop the abuse of power, stop the corruption if we see it within ourselves. And that is a nonviolent way of dealing with issues as honest as possible. And we have to think of the churches, of the mosques, and that becomes of the synagogues. How could you worship God and occupy others? You cannot do that. Putin have to have many of the Orthodox leadership in the world to go to him, say, Christianity doesn't do that, killing all those Ukrainians. What you are doing? We have to have the prophets now more than before. We have to have the unions. We have to have the social society, the peace groups around the world to have their voice be heard. And that's what we have been telling Palestinians. Voices, your voices have to be heard. Thank you.
Okay, let's go on to when using the terminology nonviolent, would you say you are indicating there are right and wrong ways to resist oppression?
I see nonviolence as no harm done to the other person. You don't harm another person. I see that if I call myself, I'm a child of God, I should not hurt another child of God. That is a well thing in me, in myself, that nonviolence is not hurting anybody. And so killing is hurting. Homelessness is hurting. Abused children are hurting. And I see that we are hurting a part of God when these are things happen. And God gave us the knowledge and the how to stop those things. That's why we are putting our efforts in helping God by doing things in our hand, actions, to stop those things that hurt people.
Someone asks, do you know about the humanist movement and its connections to nonviolence?
Yes, and I think it's important. And it's important that we see humans as we are all, as I mentioned, we are all humans. The Israeli soldier is a human being. He has a conscience. Even he tried to have a gun around you, but when he goes to his children and his wife and his grandparents and his mother and father. You know, he's a human being. If we take that in a different way, it's tough. Take him as a human being. We are all humans. And we have to learn from each other. A human can have different thoughts, different beliefs, different gods. different ideas of worship. And we should not oppose that, okay, and kill them because they believe different than what we believe in. So humanity. Also nonviolence, also we use psychology. In nonviolence, we use the power, okay? That if there is a king or a tyrant, okay, and they have columns, and we have to take all the columns out in a nonviolent means, his security, his police, his military, his money, all his income, and his support, and that tyrant will collapse. This is nonviolence. Also, nonviolence is telling the child to tell his mother or his dad, killing is wrong, dad, don't go to the army. And push your dad hard or your brother hard, rather than supporting him or her to go to the army. And that's where nonviolence becomes individually for everybody who believe in it.
One of our board members is asking for clarification on your indication of West Bank curriculum teaching violence when they are actually curriculum created by either UNRWA or internationally based curriculum.
Okay, those things are always common. To hate a group, you have to find something. Oh, their children are being taught something to kill the Israelis, or their children have been taught this, or their children have been taught that. And many times after examining those, a lot of things is happening. A Palestinian child who's in Bethlehem, for example, Jerusalem is less than 3, 4, 5 miles away. He cannot go there. He cannot pray in the mosque. He cannot pray in the church in Jerusalem. A fellow from Gaza cannot come to the West Bank. A fellow from Nablus cannot go to Jerusalem. So when people are deprived, they say a lot of things out of anger. And that things also come in books. And the idea of censoring those books, okay, I don't believe in that. I believe that if an Israeli soldier killed 10 kids and we wrote them in our books, let it be. I don't believe in censorship.
Returning a little bit to the your comments on the humanist movement, someone asks, is it the same as acknowledging humanity in our adversary and in us?
Well, we have to really pick ourselves before ask anybody to be a human being. We have to be in a humane way of dealing with that person. We have to really work hard not to be angry. We have to work hard to not only accept a fellow who's a black because of his skin, but to love him because he's black. We have to accept a fellow who is gay or who is lesbian, not only to say, well, I don't talk to him or he's far away from me, but to accept him, hug him, and love him. Okay, that's our humanity, is to accept a person as we need to be accepted. That's also a very biblical thing for me. Do to others as you want them to do for you. Okay? I want people to be kind to me. I will be kind to others, and to accept that. It's a tough word. It's a rough word. And unfortunately, We spend more money on guns, on rockets, on tanks and ammunitions to kill than we spend on making life more easy and more prosperous for us to have more humane understanding between each other. We can do it. We as humans, we can do it. We are evolved from hunters to eating with fork and knife, okay? We can evolve again ourselves from killing each other.
Thank you. And someone else asked, what can be done about the divisions and differences between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority?
I think we have to accept the divisions. Okay, it's not bad to have divisions between Hamas and the authority. Hamas feels that the authority, the Palestinian Authority, is becoming more in the hand of the Israelis. And Hamas don't like that. And they want to be more harsh and more difficult in that. And that becomes part of our differences. We cannot be all the same. So the difference between Hamas and the PLO is that they really work hard in understanding what the people want. Hamas won the election, the PLO lost the election. And that was the difficulty of the PLO to accept that Hamas won the election. Abu Mazen, who is the head of the PLO and who had the Palestinians, he doesn't want to have election because he's afraid that he's going to lose. So what kind of a government that the PLO have? If we need to have a democratic government, and if people voted for Hamas, let them vote for Hamas, and we have to vote them down in an election, not by completely isolate them and by fighting others to destroy them.
Another question, nonviolence has become a sort of buzzword for the West to indicate who has the right to resist and how. In many ways, it is even used against US citizens in judging how they are resisting their oppression. A most recent example surrounds police violence and the brutal murder of George Floyd. In what ways do you work to combat the term nonviolence without negating other valid forms of resistance?
Well, when I say killing is wrong, killing is wrong. Okay, I don't believe in capital punishment. I don't believe in destroying homes, killing children. I don't believe in guns or shooting. It doesn't matter what we have to learn to be a better human beings by not killing each other. I believe that the Black community showed restraint so much in showing not only the Black community, but a lot of whites in the Black community, and a lot of religious groups, a lot of churches, that Black Lives Matters. They put signs in the churches, they preach in the churches, and that becomes a first step of saying that we are one. Don't look at us as a religious group or as Black and white. We are all one. We are all a human being. Our blood is red, and we need anything that everybody else needed. We are not separate from our society. We have to do that in schools, in the communities, in universities, in cities, and in our nation. We should not have a law that discriminates. And if there is a law on the books which is years old, we have to take those laws out and try to be better human beings. We should not discriminate against women, not to give them the same amount of salary if they do the same job as a man. Or women would not go into universities because they are women. Or the women, they would not take the job because there's a woman. Those things have to get out of our mind, okay? Maybe our grandparents, our great-grandparents are doing it and they live happily with it. But in these days, we cannot be happy when those things are happening. And we have to show it. We have to quickly show it as fast as possible and let everybody hear it that we are not satisfied with what is going on if we hear about it. It's an action becomes an important aspect of our life.
And then someone would like to know what you appreciate about Nonviolence International.
I think I appreciate because we have staff committed to nonviolence, and they are willing to respond to any request in the world, to give them education, to give them books, to give them videos, to give them anything to help them in nonviolence. I appreciate that we have a big number of interns and volunteers in nonviolence. And you cannot imagine that we cannot function without those interns and volunteers. We have an office in New York working with the UN, try to give information to every nation who represent themselves at the UN about nonviolence. We just have a great success in Western Sahara, that there were 2 ladies have been raped by the Moroccan group, and we have volunteers. They went over there and stay with those 2 ladies, and that's a work of nonviolence. We have written, we have spoken on all aspects of nonviolence in school, in university, in colleges, wherever we have that. One of our workers, his name is Michael Beard. He really worked hard and he got the whole idea of Gene Sharp, the 100 and plus methods and theory, and he have now 300 plus methods, and he print them free to download them from Nonviolence International to see all the methods that are being used currently with the use of communication and internet and telephones and things like that. So we are helping on that. We have also David Hart. He just recently have other groups to get together and try to say to those groups what can be done more on nonviolence, not to be quiet. Nonviolence and being silent is not part of our silence, is that we have to speak up and bring others into the family of nonviolence. And we could make the change, and that becomes important in Nonviolent International. We have so much books about education, so much on training, so much on other things that we are giving it away for anybody who asks. We don't charge anything on these, but at least it's helpful. And if you look at our internet, our website, we have a lot of information that help others as much as possible. But also we are keeping our eyes open on any issues and to fight those injustices. We are believing in nonviolence, as human rights is the basis of humanity. And if any person have his rights being deprived, we have to do nonviolent action to get his or her rights. And that's important for us.
Thank you. And I'm going to now give a last call for questions. So if you have questions, please offer them now. And while we wait for this last call of questions, Dr. Awad, would you talk about the Peace and Justice program at Bethlehem University? It's a virtual program, and I'm participating in it. I think it's a very good program, and if you were to talk about it, perhaps it would inspire some interest among our participants.
Yeah, I think that many times in the history of our Palestinian-Israeli conflict, that we see all and every issue on peace being provided or being called or being entertained or being written by the Western people, by the Arab world. The King of Saudi Arabia said, you know, Israeli will do A, B, C, D, and we will recognize Israel. And the Egyptian will do the same. The Libyan will do the same. And the Moroccans will do the same. Europe will do the same. And I felt that if we have a college, which is, I feel strongly because my brother was the president of the college, that I will push that he have a master's degree in peace studies, that Palestinians and students over there can write and can consider making the issue of how we could get to peace through nonviolence means, and show the Israelis and show the Palestinian and show the whole world that we could have and provide issues that what we want as Palestinians and what we want as Israelis also to work together to get peace for that area. We cannot continue as enemies. We cannot, that conflict cannot continue forever. And it have to come to a part that an understanding between both sides have to be well developed, but understanding that people have to live in freedom. And that's my way when I started that peace program there. And I find a lot of students were very much, I have a lot of Israelis come and give lectures there. I have some Zionists come and give lectures there. I have people from the settlements even come and give lectures there. And I want the students to understand why an Israeli from Brooklyn will come to the West Bank and he said, this is my home. I am the chosen person. God told me to come here and take your land. Let him hear it from that, and let some Palestinian and some other student to ask that Israeli, what you are doing wrong. And he have to then use his conscience to figure out what he's doing is wrong or right. That's the aim of this. It's not only intellectual, but we want it to be practical, that you see the conflict and you work on the conflict while you are there.
And would you say a little bit about the Christ at the Checkpoint conference that is open to the participation of anyone that would like to come to Bethlehem, I believe in May?
The Bethlehem Bible College, as a Bible college, really they have trouble with a lot of Christians. And mostly the Christian in the United States and in Europe, that they really feel that we as Palestinians, we are blocking the coming of Jesus Christ again. we should leave the country and leave it to the Jews. And then Christ would come his second time. And for Jews, they become Christians. And those who don't become Christians, they will be killed. And then that will be the end of the world. This idea that is not accepted by Palestinians and is still promoted by many churches, okay, and many seminaries in the United States with the Christian evangelistic way how they support Israel, and they mix the politics and religion together, which make it very sad. The other idea, they come with an idea that we as Jews, as Christians, believe Jews are the chosen people. And if the cross at the checkpoint, it's very understanding there who is the chosen people. Are the Jews are the only chosen people, or everybody is chosen from God? So why the Israelis push that so much that they are a chosen people when many of them, they don't believe even in God? So the politics of the time increase, and many times you will find churches, unfortunately, that they want to build the temple in Jerusalem. And that will make the Muslim upset and angry and try to fight this idea. And to them, all the money have to come from the Christian to build the temple. And we have churches one day and Sunday that they will have money to build the temple in Jerusalem. So we are asking those people, come and hear other words and other thoughts than those ministers who have been in the evangelical seminaries and other seminaries in the United States, who have been supporters 100% of Israel, and they don't see the other side. And it is important to see the other side. And we are telling also those Christians, when you come to visit the Holy Land, don't just visit the stones of the Holy Land, meet the Christians there. We have been Christians before America was found, or before America was created. We have been Christian before Australia or New Zealand have been found. Yet nobody recognized that there are Arab Christians. And they, when I say in the United States that I'm a Christian, somebody will say, when you were converted, it's as though only I'm converted by Europeans. They don't see that I am originally part of the disciples, part of Christ at that time. And my family is Christians way, way back, and we continue being Christians. And that will show them a sense that they have been wrong in all their thoughts. And we have many people came, wrote around 12, 13 books. And suddenly when they come to Christ at the checkpoint, they said, oh my gosh, now I have new ideas. I was wrong. All my life I was wrong. Why I did that? And that a change came from meeting Christians, understanding the theology, the Palestinian theology of the Bible and how we deal with it. And it's very powerful, but it's very risky for a Christian who believes so much in the politics of Israelis and politics of the, I will call it the evangelical Zionist Christians, okay, to see and change his ways of thinking.
Thank you. And I'd just like to put in a push for this peace and justice course being offered virtually. I'm taking part in it. My classmates are from all over the world. Some, like me, are mainline. And there are many evangelical Christians in this. And as Dr. Mubarak just told us, once you experience and you see what's happening on the other side of the wall, the West Bank side of the wall, eyes are opened. It's just been a lovely experience working with these people from all over the world as their eyes are opened. It's been incredible. So I don't have the link at the moment, but if you Google Bethlehem Bible College, all these things will come up, and I think it's really worth your time to take a look at them, or share with people you know who are still of the idea that Christians need to be converted, such as Dr. Awad, whose history goes back, and he and his family were Christian long before the Europeans. So just a little commercial for that program that I found so valuable. Any closing comments, Dr. Awad?
Yeah, yes. I know sometimes I'm very open and very discussing exactly what's in my heart. And that will upset a lot of people because they don't hear it that way. And that's good. If you are upset, if you are angry, if you are frustrated, think why you are frustrated, why you're upset, and check it out. And give me a call and I will correspond with you. And I don't mind to tell you why I'm feeling that way. I have a personal experience that make me who I am. And nobody can take that personal experience. I'm so much interested, and I want to thank you, Catherine, and also all the Middle East Peace Now, that you put yourself to support Palestinians. That's a difficult situation. It brings you in the United States. Sometimes people hate you because you at least think and support the Palestinians. But for others, I want you to join social movement, okay? And try to be honest with yourself and do action. It's not only just hearing or reading, okay? We are doing a lot of things, but in nonviolence, yet it is not enough work. We could do more. And any human being sees that he or she, if have the gift, he could do more to help others. And please understand sometimes, and you'll see that in Ukraine now, probably the whole country will be traumatized. And how we can manage that. And we have been traumatized for so long. Every Palestinian, women, men, children, old, young, we are traumatized, okay? And how we deal with each other and deal with the rest of the world, it's an important. And we have to lift each other as Palestinian, but to lift each other with other human beings, okay? That we have to understand that these things should not happen. Evicting somebody from his home should not happen. Families, children being taken away from their homes and then putting a family, other family in their homes with their furniture, that's not right. And somebody have to say, we have to think of Gaza also. I did not mention that, but it's an important for people to understand. Gaza have been under siege. Nobody goes out of Gaza, nobody come in Gaza. The fishing restriction on Gaza, the food, the health, as well as the street of Gaza is being destroyed. And nobody cares, nobody cares. And we have to start thinking of the people who have been deprived most, that we have to think of them the most on that. We cannot make people deprived, okay, of their freedom. And that's important. We in America, we don't need to be hypocritic. We need freedom and freedom of speech and freedom of election, yet we deny it for others. That is hypocrisy. We should get out of that hypocrisy in the Senate, in the House, in every way of life, that whatever we need freedom for ourselves, we have to have freedom for others. And that makes us better human beings.
Thank you so much. And just wanted to say something about my former comment. I talked a lot about Christians. However, I would like you to know that MEPN and myself personally, we work together with our brothers and sisters who are Jewish, who are Muslim, who are other confessions. So I'd like to close with that, and thank you so much, Dr. Awad, for being with us this morning.
Thank you all. And thank you for listening to me. Take good care. Bye.